book nerds. We're back with another Instagram live session, and one of the perks of working at Book Nerds is that you read all sorts of books from across the globe, and it's so much fun when you discover books which you might not have discovered over, say, Amazon. Hello,
Hello. Good
hello.
morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Loving the awesome glasses. First of all, I have to compliment you. I mean, I can't look away at all. Fun, so much fun.
thank you. I love glasses. I have to wear them, so I might as well make them fashion, right?
Goodness gracious, I have to learn so much from you. I mean, let alone, leave out the books. Let's talk about fashion. I'm a disaster. My wife says I'm a disaster. Anyways, so I should first introduce you. I mean, if I'm not wrong, this will be your first session, perhaps, with an Indian handle, or
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so excited. When I posted it on my social media, I was like, I'm going global.
yeah, that it was so much fun. I was telling everyone just before you joined that it's so when we go to Amazon, the Indian Amazon page, you don't discover books from, say, the US. I mean, of course you
Yeah.
can't, but by my team at Book Nerds, they do a lot of research and try to bring in literature from across the globe. So I love that they found you,
I,
and
I
you
love
are
it
here
too.
now.
I
So
absolutely love
okay,
it.
so let me tell everyone a bit about you because that's important. You are new to our readers. So Tricia Elam Walker is an award-winning author, and I was checking out that you have been listed on the New York Times page as, I mean, Dream Street has been listed as the one of the best children's books. I mean, that is some achievement, to be honest.
Yes. I'm so grateful.
And yeah, you are Tricia is also an educator and an ex-lawyer, I believe. So I don't know if you're practicing now, but
No.
also Tricia's novel Breathing Room was published by Simon and Schuster. Her work has appeared in the Washington Post, all sorts of publications, of course. She has provided commentary for NPR, CNN, and BBC. Her short stories have been included in O. Henry Prize stories. All sorts of achievements here. You can also read them in the description, which we have given in our post also. But we are here to talk about a couple of books, very interesting books. The first one, I'm so sorry that I only have the PDFs for you guys, but of course, I would ask Tricia to perhaps show the covers.
Hmm.
The first one I have, of course, Nana Akua Goes to School. And please
Yeah.
correct my pronunciations if I go wrong.
No, you're
And
right. You're very good. Very good.
So, yeah, and the second one is, of course, Dream Street, which is the latest one, November 2021. And both the books are so beautiful. And I've been, of course, they have been wonderful. They have been slated as children's books, but
Yeah.
I actually disagree. It is they are so, everybody should read them. They are not just children's books. Also, I forgot that you are an assistant professor of creative writing at Harvard University, and
Yes.
you reside in Maryland, if I'm not wrong.
That's right.
That's
Right
Maryland,
next
right?
door to Washington, D.C. Yes, yes, yes. But I
Awesome,
have to
awesome.
say, I agree with you so much about children's books. My
Yeah,
mom was a children's librarian. She read children's books all
yeah,
the time. She gave them as gifts
yeah,
to adults. I do the same thing
yeah,
now, that she's gone. So you're absolutely right.
yeah.
Children's books can solve the problems of the world. That's what she used to say.
Right. Goodness gracious, I have really gotten into, especially after the pandemic. I don't know what happened. I've got a couple of kids. I've been reading a lot of children's books for some of the live sessions as well. But you are so right. I mean, they can change a lot. And these two books, I'm not even kidding. They are so relevant in India as well. You will be surprised. I really request you to pursue a Dream Street perhaps in India, because the things they talk about, inclusion, diversity, they are important everywhere in the
Yeah.
world. Tell us a bit more about the inception of Dream Street first. Then we'll
Yeah.
go on to
Sure. Dream Street, first of all, I need to tell you, is a collaboration with my cousin. My cousin is the illustrator. She and I grew
yeah,
up together. We grew up in a neighborhood called Roxbury in Boston,
yeah,
Massachusetts, which was an all-black
yeah,
neighborhood at that time. It's gentrified now, of course.
yeah,
But the thing is, a lot of times people think of the black urban neighborhood, not much is going on, etc. But
yeah,
there was so much richness. For one thing, as children, we didn't have, this is back in the 50s and 60s. We didn't have
yeah,
computers or cell phones or video
yeah,
games or any of that. So we used our
yeah,
imaginations. We made things
yeah,
up. We drew, we played outside, we
yeah,
created. And because my mom was a librarian, we also read a lot. So we went to the
yeah,
library. We were so excited to go to the library and come back with, a pile of books that we could
right,
go through and visit all these different worlds and get introduced to new characters and people's
right,
lives. And so, I always felt like I wanted to create that same feeling for other people. And with Dream
yeah,
Street, we just really want to celebrate how we grew up. And my
yeah,
cousin was already illustrating and winning awards for, her work with children's books. So we just kept saying,
yeah,
we should do something together. And we couldn't figure out what to do. Finally, she sent me some collages that she hadn't used in anything yet. And they were, they're mostly of people, but they're in very different settings. And because she's a collagist, of course, the work is just amazing, very textured,
yeah,
three-dimensional, etc. And as I looked at her collages, it was a very different way for me to work because I had to find the story in her art. And of course, as
yeah,
an artist, she's a storyteller, so it wasn't
yeah,
difficult. But as I started
yeah,
looking at the different pieces of art, I started seeing, okay, this person, he's a retired mail carrier. He's happy not
right,
to be in his uniform anymore. He greets everybody in the neighborhood. And, the
right,
stories just started coming to me. So we really want to celebrate all the people in a neighborhood, the idea of dreams, children having dreams, children's dreams being nurtured by the adults around them. So that's what
yeah.
Dream Street is about.
It is so inspirational. I mean, you are so right. The collages that she has come up with are just amazing. I would like to take you to one of those, and perhaps you can show it in the book as well. This one right here.
Yes, and that one, of course, represents us as children.
Yes.
She was always someone who, I'm trying to find it now. She was always someone who was collecting things that other people thought were trash,
Yeah.
broken jewelry, leaves, feathers, etc. Oh, here it is.
Right. So
And
this is so autobiographical, actually. This is
yes,
you. I mean, yeah,
yes.
it's so much of I mean, a lot of nostalgia here. So tell us a little bit because growing up in the neighborhood, as you said, uh, it is kind of you need to. There is no television, of course. You said that,
Right.
and to inspire yourself, and especially your equation with the illustrator. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as I said, so we kind of grew up together because she would come to my house after school, and I also had a
Yeah.
little brother at that time. We kind of drove him crazy, but we brought him into the fold sometimes. He helped us with
Yeah.
our plays because we were very creative. We made up plays, we
Yeah.
performed them for my
Yeah.
parents. We actually also went to some of the nursing homes in the area and performed for the elderly people there.
Yeah.
And of course, they enjoyed it, and they were so encouraging to us. They would tell
Yeah.
us what we did was wonderful, and we were like, oh, wow. So we wanted to do, more and more of it. No one ever said that's silly or you shouldn't do that, so we were
Yeah.
always creating. I remember even saying to my mother, I wanted the little books that I wrote to open like
Yeah.
real books. So she sat down and showed me how to sew it with needle and thread. I was sewing
Wow.
paper so that they would open
Wow.
up, like real books. It's just so much
Wow.
encouragement. And
Yeah.
I feel like children don't always get that enough,
Yeah.
nowadays. But that was something we did get. We had one TV that my mother would hide, and sometimes she would bring it out when she wanted the family to watch a special program. But there
Right.
was no such thing as a child having their own TV in their room or something like that. You couldn't
Right.
just go
Of
off and watch
course.
by yourself. No, that wasn't
I
happening.
mean,
But you
even
know,
yeah, we got the television like later on, but even we didn't have that luxury. There was only one TV, and everybody would watch it. This particular page in the book, and it's so wonderful that you have mentioned this. I mean, this character as well, Zion. It's
Oh
really
yes,
interesting. It's and
that's Zion. And
yeah,
there's a couple of things I wanted to do there. For one, I wanted to, he asked the librarian, can boys be librarians? Because he loves to read
yeah,
so much. And
yeah,
he loves the idea that the librarian, when he goes to the library, she has books ready for him. She's like, I think I have something you would like. You know what I mean? So
right,
she really understands his tastes and knows what he's looking for,
yeah,
but also wants to challenge him sometimes and give him new things to read about.
right,
And he wants to be able
yeah,
to do that. So when he's been told maybe boys don't do certain things, girls do certain things or whatever. So he asked the librarian, can boys be librarians? And she says, yes,
yes,
of course you can. And then his day is made. He knows he can do that.
yeah,
And I think that's our job as adults, to not put
yeah,
limitations on children, to let them know they can do whatever. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
If that's something you're inclined to do, yes, you should go
yeah,
for it. Also, I
yeah.
named the librarian Miss Barbara because my mother's name was Barbara. So those
Oh,
were some of
wonderful.
the things I was trying to do. Someone just
I
asked,
think I read it.
I was just going to say, sorry, someone just asked in the chat,
Yeah.
how was it working with a family member? Was it hard to make
Yes.
creative
Yeah.
decisions? So I just wanted to
Yeah.
answer that, because it was a delight working with my cousin. And our editor
Wow.
really wants us to do something else again, to follow up and
Yeah.
do something else together. It was a delight because you know why? We are not in competition with each other, and we both
Yeah.
love each other's work, and we have since we were
Right.
children. I have many
Right.
of her paintings in my house, thankfully, because now
Yeah.
I can't afford to buy them. But I
Yeah.
have some, and I'm so delighted because she does all kinds of different work. You don't know, you can look at one piece
Right.
of hers and not know that she did this other piece, that kind of thing. So I've always admired her work. She's always enjoyed my writing, and we support each other.
Yeah.
I go to her
Yeah.
exhibits. She's gone to my plays. She goes to my book signings. So there's no
Yeah.
competition. We're able to discuss things. If we don't agree,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it, that kind of thing.
Wonderful. I really wanted to ask you this because a lot of, I mean, the children's book space in India as well is like going crazy. I mean, there is so much great content coming up, and it is very rooted kind of, in India. I mean, because earlier we used to have everything from mostly British because
Yeah. Oh,
we
yeah.
have that influence. It was a colony, of course,
Yeah.
of the British, so we have that influence. But slowly and steadily, we are getting away from, that sort of thing. Writing about inclusion and diversity, what are the things that one needs to kind of, be wary of? There it can perhaps get too desperate at times, that you are kind of, perhaps to kind of seem maverick or different. You are,
Yeah.
writing too much. How is it organic,
I think you're right. I think it has to be organic because you don't want to hit someone over the head, with a heavy message, especially children. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think that it should be very natural. And I think it's so important especially at this time in our world, not just in my country, but in the world,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we need to understand that we're all at the core, we're all the same. We all have the same desires and goals for our lives and for our children's lives. And that,
Yeah.
we shouldn't look at something as strange or the other or not normal. And one of the things that has stuck in my mind when my children were little, I used to work at
Yeah.
we'd have these book fairs, and I always would make sure I was there because I wanted them to be multicultural and global and that kind of thing. And I remember I was there, and there was a book that I loved called Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. I don't know if you know that book. It's by John
Yeah.
Steptoe, who has since passed
Okay.
away. The illustrations
Yeah.
are phenomenal. I don't have it right in front of me to show you, but that book was on display because I made sure it was there, right? And a little white
Yeah.
girl walked in with her mother, and she was drawn to that book because, like I said, it's so beautiful and outstanding. She went over to the book, and her mother snatched her away and said, "That's not for you." And I was so hurt.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
my God.
it's not my book or anything, but I was hurt because
Yeah.
I felt like that was
Yeah.
such a teachable moment. It could have been for that
Yeah.
little girl.
Yeah.
If her mother
Yeah.
had said, "Oh, yes, let's look at that book," even if she didn't buy it, but yes, let's look at it. Let's read it together. Let's see what it is. But to tell her that's
Yeah.
not for her, what kind of message was that? that anything she
Right.
sees with, you know, a child of color on it is not for
Yeah.
her, when, so that she's
Yeah.
not even learning to, she can identify with that person's, you know, needs or emotions.
Mhm.
It's not right. You know, I grew up with
Yeah.
books that nobody looked like me in them, because they just didn't have them at that
True.
time, or they weren't
Yeah.
positive depictions, right? And so I
Yeah.
had to learn to empathize with those characters. And I did. I loved
Yeah.
my books that I had when I was a little girl. Nobody looked like
Yeah.
me, but I could identify with what they were going through. And
Right.
we have to
Right.
teach that to all children. You know, we just have to. So I try, like with Nana Akua Goes to School. This is a
Yeah.
story about a little girl whose grandmother is from Ghana. And her grandmother has these traditional markings on her face, which in
Right.
some ways, you know, look like scars or can be, you know, frightening to people who don't know what it is.
Right.
And so she
Yeah.
is worried. She doesn't want to take her grandmother to school for Grandparents' Day, even though she loves her. This is her favorite person in the world, because she doesn't
Yeah.
want kids to be mean to her. She wants to protect her grandmother, right, from this, because she knows
Yeah.
people have stared at her and looked at her like, what is going on? But her
Yeah.
grandmother, you know, wants to go and wants to show her, well, we're going to educate
Yeah.
your class. You know, we're going to let them know. So the grandmother explains what the markings mean in a very beautiful way. And she actually uses some of the African Adinkra symbols, which are shown
Oh, yeah.
throughout the book.
Please.
And she
Yeah.
lets the children pick their own symbol, because all these symbols, these are ancient symbols, which mean really wonderful
Yes.
qualities and things. And she lets the children pick them out, and then she paints them. And
Right.
so it's a, you know, it's a way of talking about cultural differences by
Yeah.
appreciating them and celebrating them.
So, of course, these the symbols, Adinkara symbols, it's called, right? So it's very interesting. They come from Ghana in
Yes.
Africa and West Africa, to be precise. To kind of include this in the book, it is I would say it's very interesting because I read this book by Tomi Adeyemi. I don't know if you know about her. She has come up with the Children of Virtue and Vengeance and
Oh,
couple of
yes,
books.
yes, yes, yes.
The young adult writer, and she has also kind of done a similar thing, not exactly, but it was very refreshing to see this in a children's book, especially that is young adult, of course. But it's I loved this moment, especially when Zura is kind of looking at the quilt, and
Yes.
she's wondering what will happen when my grandmother shows up at the school, and perhaps she would be kind of feeling a bit out of place.
Mhm.
The story, it's how did you come up with it? Because it's very interesting. It is what might happen. Actually, it happens a
Yes.
lot of times. If you're different, you're treated differently.
Right. And I know that the children, even though they're young, they have some of the feelings, the same emotions that we do as adults, of
Yeah,
instinctively wanting to protect the people they care about. So even though she's the
yeah,
little girl, she wants to protect, her much older grandmother
right,
from being hurt,
right,
right? And so, I
yeah,
wanted to, talk about that feeling in a way that children understood. But I
yeah,
also, I had this book contract and I didn't have an idea yet of what I wanted to write about. And I
yeah,
kept sending ideas to my agent, and she would say, "Oh, that's boring, or that's been done before, or that's depressing." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And my deadline was approaching, and I still didn't have an idea. And I
yeah,
happen to be a Buddhist, and
yeah,
so as a Buddhist, I chant, and I chant when I really, I need help. So I was chanting about what
right.
am I going to write about, and the place where
Yeah.
I was had these African masks, almost like I'm going to show you one behind me,
Yes,
like
yes,
that.
yes. I
I
see.
wasn't I wasn't in
Yeah,
my own home, but I was somewhere else. And the
yeah,
friend had these African masks, and as I was, really
yeah.
praying and thinking about it, I felt like the story kind of came to me through the mask. I know it sounds a little hokey, but so initially I started thinking about maybe the little girl would have had the markings and people would tease her.
Yeah.
But then when I started researching, I realized they weren't doing that so much anymore to younger, children,
Right,
and that
right.
it would be an older person. So I said, okay, it's going to be her grandmother. So that's kind of how the story came to
Yeah.
be.
Awesome. You also teach creative writing, and it is, such a tough thing. I mean, it is, there are so many authors now.
Right.
What do you how do you motivate your, students? Because it is so tough to be different. As you said that, you were approaching a deadline and you were
Yeah,
worried that, most of the things have been done. How do you
right,
make a difference? I mean, there are so many plots. How do
right.
you make, differentiate sort of?
Well, when with teaching, one of the things I found, a lot of times when I just let students write what they want, and I really do want it to be a space where they're able to be free, more so than
Yeah,
maybe any place else in their college career, because most of the time they in their writing they have to do expository
right.
writing, have to write about certain subjects, or there's certain
Yeah,
restrictions. So I want them to be free in their writing, but a lot of times I was
yeah,
getting the same kind of stories. Bad romance.
yeah.
That's what mostly they were writing about in college. And I was like, oh, I'm tired of reading about this. So what I started doing is telling them, first of all, they have to write about someone who's very different from them. So either
Right.
gender wise, race, ethnicity, age, something has to be different, where the person grew up, whatever. And
Yeah,
then a lot of times I'll give them a little prompt to get them started, so that trying to take them away from that, writing about the same things over and over again. I think
yeah,
there's an old adage of write what you know, but I really believe, write what you have learned about, or write something you want to know about, or whatever, so that, that you can
yeah,
expand that. So I really encourage them to expand and to
yeah.
think beyond, what their own experiences is. And that's been really good. That's brought a lot of wonderful ideas to them. And also, of course, we read a lot, and I have them read things they might not read on their own. So
Yeah.
that helps.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I have picked up a book about, something which I wouldn't even, kind of think of. I mean, in the scenario of where I am, what I read, I mean, both these books, I mean, they are like kind of, different. And that's amazing. It's always good to, pick up different stuff. I'll of course talk about, okay, writer Gaurav B is asking, what would be the one advice you have for new writers who are just about to publish, or perhaps writing that manuscript?
Well, first of all, keep writing. And I know you've also heard the thing about writing every day. I think you should try to have an experience with your writing every day. Sometimes it's hard to write every day, especially if you have a job or, other responsibilities. But be thinking about your writing, be working in your head on it. And one of the things I do when I've started developing characters, when I'm walking around, like I'm in the grocery store, I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I wonder if that person would be friends with my character. Or if I wonder if my character's mother would look like that, or if it's an older person, I wonder if she'd have wrinkles like that or whatever. I really do try to, make my
yeah,
characters real and have them out in the world. I'll go past the house and think, maybe so and so lives there, or who grew up there or whatever.
yeah,
So having an experience with your writing every day, I think, is really important. I think also not being hard on yourself, just get the writing out, because you can always go back and correct and change and throw things out and add things in, but just try to get it out. Don't keep editing. At least for me, if I keep editing right when I'm writing, I'll never get anywhere. So just like try to get it out of your body, and
yeah,
then find somebody who really is helpful to you that you can read it to, and read your writing out loud as much as you can, so you can hear, you can hear the rhythm, you can hear the pacing when things go awry. But if you find
yeah,
someone good that you can read it to, even if they're not a writer, if they have a good ear, and if they're honest with you, and won't just say, "Oh yes, everything you do is wonderful," but they can
yeah,
tell you, I don't know, would someone really say that, or would they sound like that, or well, what happened with this, or that I think that those kinds of things are very helpful, especially to new writers.
yeah. How has your camaraderie been with the illustrators? I know on Nana Akua it was April Harrison, and
Yes.
with Dream Street, of course, we have talked about that you have done it with your cousin. So yeah, tell us a bit about the camaraderie in both the
Oh yeah.
books.
That's such a great question. With April Harrison, it was really kind of mystical because it was done in the traditional way, where I had already written the manuscript, and the editor then approached, certain illustrators. And so my
Right.
editor sent the manuscript to April to ask her if she was interested in it. And I
Okay.
knew of April's work. I loved her work. So I
Yeah.
was, really hoping that she'd want to do it, because she's already also a renowned illustrator, has won awards, etc. So I'm like, you know, hoping she'll like it. And she did. And I also hadn't realized that I had a print of hers in my house. Maybe for 20 something years, I didn't even know it was her work, because it's a little bit different too from what she usually does. So then when I realized that, I was like, oh, this is meant to be, you know, this is a union for us. So in any case, they didn't really want us to talk for whatever reason. But she said to me, what things are important to you? And I said, you know, it's really important to me that the grandmother have a warm, inviting face. Even though we want to represent the markings, I want her face to be warm. And I think she really did that. I mean, I love, I'm going to try to find the illustration I love the most. Oh, here it is. This one. I love this illustration because it shows the markings, but it also has, you know, such a warmth in the face. And she said she used as a role model Trevor Noah's grandmother, that she had seen a video of Trevor Noah when he went back home to South Africa and visited his grandmother. So I thought that was nice. Maybe if Trevor's listening, he will pick up the book. You know, so she, and I told her I wanted the classroom to be diverse. So she made the classroom very, let's find it.
The classroom was amazing. I mean, to be honest,
trying to find it now.
So here. Looked like a lot of fun.
I think it's like the first page. Here we go. Yeah. So she made sure, you know, there are all kinds of children represented.
Yes.
And I love it. I love her work. It's beautiful.
Amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it's a shame that we don't have the book in India, but, you know, perhaps I wanted to ask you about, you know, the global thing. It's, I mean, of course, the books, Dream Street is just out. Are there any plans to kind of, you know, explore different, you know, regions?
You're making me think that I need to have that conversation, you know, with my publisher. How do we do this? You know, I mean, I know that it happens, but what I've been told a lot of times is, you know, the book has to be a bestseller in the States first before they, you know, try to move it out other places in the world. So let's make it a bestseller, you U.S. people listening. So we can get it to go global.
No, sometimes, you know, the marketing people don't understand that these issues are very global. Right. I mean, it's not just the States, but I suppose it's economics at the end of the day. So sometimes, you know, but guys, you can get the book, of course, you can get it from Amazon. It's slightly, you know, on the higher side because it's an import. You can get the book from there. And there's a Kindle version also, so you can get it from there. So that's not an issue. So my final question about the publishing, because I believe Nana Akua was Random House, and
they're both Random House. Yeah,
both Random House.
Both,
so, okay, great. So Nana Akua was commissioned, or what about Dream Street? Are these both commissioned, or, you know, you approached?
It's an interesting story because Dream Street actually came first. Because as I mentioned, you know, my cousin and I had been talking about trying to do something together. We put Dream Street together, we sent it out into the world, and we got a lot of rejection. People said, it's not a children's book. Maybe it's a coffee table book. It's not a story, that kind of thing. And people would tell us to change it. So we tried to change things around, but it didn't feel right to us. You know what I mean? And so, and then they still didn't like it. So we kept going back to our original plan, and it took us several years actually. Finally, I found an agent who really loved it, and then she was able to find an editor who loved it. What happened was, because my cousin already had some books sort of in the pipeline, they don't really like books to compete with each other. So they said, well, Dream Street's going to have to wait. Why don't you do a separate book? And that's how the Nana Akua contract came. So I worked on that first, and that was published first in the summer of 2020, and Dream Street just came out in November. So
I was about to ask you, and Abhin is also asking the same question. Can you speak about your plans for the future? And I wanted to ask you the same thing, because I read that you are working on your second novel as well.
Yeah, I've been working on that forever. So please send the positive vibes for that. You know, a novel takes a long time, and at least for me, but I'm close with that one. But also, I do love writing children's books now, and it honors my mother and it honors my heart to do them. So I do want to continue. So I have some other ideas about that. We do want to do a follow-up to Dream Street. People have asked us to write about some of the characters, like the five little boys who their father wants them to be jazz musicians.
Oh yes. And are these real characters? You have kind of
some of those are based on photographs that my cousin took.
Okay.
So those were five little boys she actually saw and took a photograph of, and then she created the collage. So we don't know them, but in my mind, there are five boys. They're all named after jazz musicians, and their father wants to form a jazz band with them. So people have said, well, write a story about them, or write about the girl jumping rope or whatever. So I'm not sure who we're going to write about. What'd you say?
All of these characters deserve a spin-off. They are so interesting. I mean, they are so right. People who are telling you that you should come up with different stories from, and this jazz one seems like perhaps the first one to go for. And of course, I was very interested in Zion's story also. It was very interesting to me. Yeah.
Well, so yes, because you're a book person, so I can see you relating to him. That was probably you as a little boy.
I suppose.
Zion was you as a little boy. Yeah.
a lot of children, and we need this. We need more of this, to inspire young children across the globe. It's not just any particular country. I'm so happy to talk to you today. It is wonderful. I would request everyone to kind of go grab a copy, even if it costs you a little bit more. Go grab it. It will be worth your time. It is just amazing. It is so different, and I'm not even kidding. It is one of the finest, children's books I have read ever. Seriously, it's just amazing. I love them. And thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. Please keep in touch, and I would love you to send me some names of Indian children's books that I should look at.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Thank you so much.
I'll do that, definitely. See you next time, and we are looking forward to so much more from you.
Thank you. Take good care. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Yeah, Happy New Year. Yeah, bye.